In Palestine, authorities report that at least 20 Gazans were pulled out dead from the debris after Israeli army shelled residential areas in front of the Al-Kuwait hospital in Rafah. The German government requests support of the army to face the floods provoked by the continuous rains of the last days. The president of Argentina, Javier Milei, has formalized the country's refusal to join the BRICS bloc. Argentina was to become a full member as for January the 1st. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We'll be with the news. Stay with us. In Palestine, the Israeli army shelled residential areas in front of the Al-Kuwait hospital in Rafah. Authorities report that at least 20 Gazans were pulled out dead from the debris. They also said that most of those killed and wounded are children and women. According to the local media, a large number of the victims were from the Diab family evacuating from the Khan Yunis under Al-Bala, who were sheltering since yesterday afternoon in Rafah.
We were attacked even though we were displaced and forced to seek refuge. We fled from the danger of death, but the house next door that had about 50 people inside, including children, was bombed and all of them were killed. I just want to ask you a favor. If you can talk to any person from the Ghanaian Khan Yunis family, please tell them to communicate with us. They will cut out the street and we will not be able to return to our neighborhood.
Displaced Palestinians living in a camp in southern Gaza, Rafah said they long for the end to the conflict between Israel and Hamas so they can return home, while vast areas of northern Gaza is in ruins and largely deserted. Israeli airstrikes and ground combat remains.
We hope there will be an independent Palestinian state and for conflicts to end. We hope the best for everyone. We are peaceful Muslims. We hope in the new year they declare a lasting ceasefire and an end to the war in 2024. So Israeli forces would withdraw to its position as it was the case before October the 7th. We hope to return to our they were destroyed or not.
2023 was the worst in my life. It was a year of destruction and devastation. We went through a tragedy that even our grandparents didn't experience. Our grandparents conveyed to us what they have went through, but it can be compared to worse. We were displaced from a place to another, from Gaza City to the central region to Rafah. We went through hell and encountered death itself.
The United Nations organization increased its warning calls for more humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip. A senior representative of the agency said on the persistence of serious obstacles to bringing more aid to the needy amid the bombardments by the Israeli army and intense fighting on the ground. At least 100,000 displaced have also arrived in Rafah in recent days, worsening the dire conditions in the southern part of the enclave. Health authorities in Gaza said that half of the pregnant women seeking safety in shelters are suffering from thirst, malnutrition, lack of medical care and vaccines from newborns, while displaced children are facing dehydration, malnutrition and disease. South Africa filed a complaint on Friday with the International Court of Justice against Israel for the perpetrated genocide against Palestine. The complaint filed by South Africa states that Israel's acts and omissions are genocidal in nature, as they are committed with a specific intent to destroy the Palestinians in Gaza. Furthermore, the African country requested the inclusion of precautionary measures to protect against replaceable harms to the rights of the Palestinian people under the Convention on Genocide and to ensure Israel's compliance with its obligations not to engage in such crimes. The complaint filed before the International Court of Justice by South Africa specifies that South Africa brings its case before the International Court of Justice under the Genocide Convention regarding the acts committed by Israel in Gaza. It also noted that South Africa is gravely concerned about the difficult situation faced by the civilians trapped in the ongoing Israeli attacks on the Gaza Strip due to the indiscriminate use of force and for the displays of its inhabitants. There are constant reports about acts that reach the thresholds of genocide or related crimes. It also demands that the court declares as a matter of urgency that Israel is in a branch of its obligations under the genocide conviction, and it must immediately cease all acts and measures that violate those obligations and take a series of related measures. In Yemen, a massive march was held this Friday in the city of Sada in support and solidarity with the Palestinian people. The citizens come out with the Yemeni and Palestinian flags, chanting in support of the Palestinian citizens and against U.S. interference. The demonstrators also praised the operation of the Yemeni armed forces in support of Gaza and condemned the silence and neglect of the Palestinian people by the Arab and Islamic governments. In other topics, rain, coastal flooding, and a wave as tall as 25 feet were expected to land parts of the west coast on Friday. A day after Iran waves plumbed the California shorelines and prompted some evacuation warnings. In Southern California, forecasters predict a wave of up to 25 feet and said that a threat of significant coastal floodings will last until Saturday night. The beaches in San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara County, in northwest of Los Angeles, high surf and coastal flood warning in effect through 10 p.m. Germany's government requests support to the army to face the floods in the country after the continuous rains of the last day. The authorities informed that the lower Saxony region of Germany asked for support to reinforce dikes in addition to the evacuation works. The armed forces detailed that they will provide at least 6 helicopters to stabilize the dikes and thus contain the flooding of the rivers in order to reach the places that are difficult to access. Let's take a very short break, but remember, you can now join us on our TikTok account at teleSUR English, where you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. The president of Argentina, Javier Milei, has formally announced his country will not join the BRICS bloc after having been invited to become a member in the bloc last meeting past August. The president has sent letters to his counterpart from Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, members of the international organization, in which he stressed that he does not consider it appropriate for Argentina to join BRICS as a full member as of January 1st, 2024. Last August 23rd, at the 50th BRICS Summit held in South Africa, the leaders of this economic bloc announced a decision to include 6 new countries in the membership: Iran, Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. In Argentina, the decree of necessity and urgency, DNEU, promoted by Milei's administration, begins its implementation 8 days after it was published in the National Gazette. The decree deregulates the economy, declares a public emergency in several branches of the economy and institutions until December 31st, 2025, and establishes reform of the states. Our correspondent in Buenos Aires, Carolina Silvestre, with details.
Despite the rejection of part of the Argentine society, the decision of the national executive power, which violates the South American country's constitution, came into force.
We are concerned and against the decree, both in terms of form and substance, in terms of content. I mainly want to emphasize that the form is very important. It is an unconstitutional decree that looks for reforms that are neither necessary nor urgent for this period. We have had a democratic system for 40 years with divided powers, and the truth is that we are going through is an outrage without words.
With the modification of regulations established by the decree and new measures, Argentinians lose hundreds of rights. Exports, imports, and prices are liberalized, and the tax burden on the working class is increased.
There is not a single measure, not a single article aimed at thinking about the development of the country's industry, which we know is what will improve the socio-economic situation for all workers. Nor is there any specific measure on behalf of the popular economy sector.
Economic, social, and political structural reforms that have strong impact on various sectors of society, benefiting only concentrated domestic and foreign economic powers.
Clearly, the laws that are being introduced, the omnibus law, the decrees of necessity and urgency, all have names and surnames, and they are for the benefit of the most powerful sectors of this country, and clearly not us. In fact, we are the most affected. 120% devaluation fell on our shoulders and our backs. That is the reality. No need to give it much more thinking.
The increased debt, layoff, poverty reveal that the outlook is and will be alarming and convulsive in the short term.
The context is stressing from all points of view, and since the ballot, the days have been running out, and the scenario is really catastrophic, especially for the social movements.
As workers of the popular economy, we are afraid of what will happen in February, April, and March, when the kids start going to school, when the cost of a bus ticket reaches 800 pesos, when they won't have enough money to buy their school supplies and to eat.
And although the decree will still have to pass through Parliament next March to be approved or rejected, and the judiciary will have yet defined its constitutionality, it will remain in force until the legislature and the judiciary issue their rulings.
Carolina Silvestre, TeleSUR, Buenos Aires.
The Mexican government started operations of a mega pharmacy for the distribution of medicines to public hospitals and centers in the country. On Friday, the Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador announced the inauguration of the mega pharmacy based in Huehuetoca, State of Mexico, for the distribution of medicines nationwide. In this sense, he highlighted that it will be the largest in a country which will have all the medicines required by the people. The mega pharmacy will not only store drugs, but it will also be a central base in control of the records of the medicines stored in different hospitals. In Mexico, a caravan of migrants advanced through the state of Veracruz on its way to the U.S. border. The group is made up of at least 128 children, 220 women, and 185 men who have decided to leave their country. Due to the low temperatures, drizzle, and fog in the area, the local authorities have set up an auditorium so that these people can find protection if necessary. At the same time, they made it clear that they will provide them with humanitarian aid and free transit, but they cannot provide them with transportation. In this context, the Mexican government announces continues its efforts to address the migratory situation and stress that most of the migrants crossing the country to the United States come from third countries. The Chilean Supreme Court of Justice increased the sentence of 9 retired military officers who participated in a murder of 15 people during the dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet. The Chilean justice increased the sentences of the officers from the crimes committed during the so-called caravan of death case. Brigadier Pedro Espinosa and Colonel Juan Jimeleni had been sentenced to 5 years in prison in 2018 as perpetrators of the murder. Now, by order of the country's highest court, they will have to serve a 15-year sentence. Let's take our last break, but before we invite you to join us on our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on the screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Continuous coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with TeleSUR. Financial break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Chad, the Supreme Court confirms the results of the constitutional referendum as announced by the President of the Supreme Court, Samir Al-Amanur. Chad Supreme Court definitively validated the results of the referendum for a new constitution organized by the military junta that has been in power for the past 2.5 years, a key step intended to pave the way for the elections in the country at the end of 2024. For some members of the opposition and civil society, the results of the ballot resembles a plebiscite decided to pave the way for the elections of the transitional president, General Mohamed Idris Deby Itno. The Burkina Faso army claimed on Thursday to have destroyed an alleged terrorist base in the town of Tia, department of Sigley, in the central west region of the country. The military discovered a terrorist base in the Tia forest. There, they launched airstrikes and killed a significant number of insurgents at the site. The military report indicates that the base and all logistics were destroyed at the time of the attack. From this president recently gave statements against same-sex marriage. And calling it abominable practices and advocating the stoning of gay couples and religious reasons. The president, known for his conservative Christian views, previously called for homosexuals to be the punished and treated as outcasts. This statement comes in reactions at the global discourse on LGBTQ+ rights, has been some notable developments such as Pope Francis' declarations on December 18 regarding the blessing of homosexual couples. In Zambia, the proliferation of cholera infections forced health authorities to expand the epidemiological side. Officials' data recorded nearly 100 deaths due to the disease, whose initial outbreak began in October and fed all the awareness raising initiative decreed by the Health Ministry to contain its advance. The Minister of Health, Sylvia Masebo, and of Water Resources, Mike Bouchard, recommended the implementation of more domestic hygiene and an increase in the dozens of chlorine for water in areas with the highest incidence. Local experts, meanwhile, believe that the spread of the disease are consequences of the rains that have hit several regions of South Africa. We have come to the end of this brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials from Facebook, on X, and on Instagram as well. For Telesur English, I'm from the South. I'm Ana Marrero. Thank you for watching.